Welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Line. I'm Samuel.
And I'm Charleton.
Taking a deep dive into the arts of mime and
Choreography.
say the thing. Say the thing. The thing. No, before I run out of breath.
Oh my gosh, are you deprived of breath?
Yeah, that's the song for today.
Okay, yeah.
So, Deprived of Breath, back to Samuel July, because it's all songs that I've choreographed and predominantly worked on.
In the comments, tell us if you know why it's Samuel July. There's
It's probably pretty obvious at this point. But, so this song, Deprived of Breath, is a two-parter. One part that I choreographed and the other part that the Bakersfield team choreographed. So we're going to save the song Breathe Into Me for a future time. This is purely a song that is tacked on and attached to the second song. Choreographed back in 2011, and I'll be honest with you, it's not a very good song. I was going through a phase. I'm going to use the word angsty, even though that's not the right word. That's the word that I associated with it.
yeah, angsty, edgy, your edgy teen
Yeah,
years.
my edgy teen years. You can make fun of me for my angst, but but I was going through a phase. Let's say this was not a happy time in my life. I was sad. This was sad Samuel time, and I listened to more metal music. And while I listened to this metal music, this
You're
album,
going through your emo phase.
oh, this was my heart. I was deep in my emo phase, man, and things were bad in my life. My dad's health was all over the place, and I was emotionally struggling with why I'm a Christian. You know, it was all those questions and phases. You can ask me about that another time in my dark stories of my testimony or something. When I give my testimony, I normally like reference all those dark things and then just move on. It's fine. But people don't normally like talking about the sads. You can ask me about that later.
Ask about it in the comments
I'm
below.
so depressed, I act like it's my birth. Something like that. That was basically my life then. That was a Taylor Swift song, if you didn't know. It's pretty great.
I would also like to know, we got more Samuel lore.
More Samuel lore. So a friend of mine, David Malash, you rock, suggested
He's a rock? Oh, sorry. No.
suggested this album. While we're talking about rocks, go follow on Facebook The Pet Rock. Yeah, I think it's just called The Pet Rock. It's a pretty great page.
Oh, no. I'm scared.
All the memes are just like ... of a pet rock with eyes. It's gold. I'll show it to you later. I don't think it's called The Pet Rock, so here it is. Thank you, Charleton. Future Charleton. I love you. So David Malash loves metal music and recommended this album because it is a theological one. It is all around the concept of depravity. Isn't that so great? It's like,
Gosh,
you know,
I love depravity.
Christian metal would talk about this. They're not going to talk about like redemptive salvation. No, we're going to talk about like the things that sound very metal. So the whole album is dedicated to the concept of depravity. The first half of it talks about how bad we are, and he just yells at himself for being an evil person from the heart. And then the second half of the album talks about all the ways that society and people are evil. It goes there. And throughout, there's this like hidden prayer in the background, and it actually is in the lyrics called like a prayer. And you hear like these murmurs of this guy. And so this song is the ending epilogue of this guy's prayer. And it's very dark and depressing. And I was like, yay, let's choreograph a song to that because I think it's meaningful. And I figured it was not a good song on its own. So we attached it to basically a person who was saved and got, or I should say, who was in the faith, but nominally, and then got lost in like drugs and alcohol and all that.
Cool. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, let's get into it. So I remind you, I don't think this is a very good song anymore. It's more emotional and whatever. You feel this nice guitar stuff. Mm-hmm. I also this is one of the first ones I ever did audio editing, because one, I cut the song because the first half is all metal music, but two, I also like made it so the lyrics were a little bit more prominent in the sounding so you could actually hear them, because this one super dependent on the lyrics. There's no way you don't do lyrics.
And what I think is interesting that I've noticed personally is that this feels like a proto Fight Inside.
Oh, it's a proto Fight Inside.
It's got some very...
Well, no, this was choreographed 2 years after Fight Inside.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it definitely has some inspiration for Fight Inside nonetheless, because this feels like if Fight Inside was not as good.
Yeah, basically. It has cool techniques with like the isolation, but it definitely follows lyrics with Blinding Haze. But the whole like thing I did here was it's like a monologue of me with this wall and left and right looking back and forth.
And I mean, as much as you boosted the audio, I still have no idea.
Oh no,
what
it's
you're
pretty.
saying.
No, it's pretty bad. I mean, he says, "Why won't you answer me?" And he's like, "Behind the wall." And so you have mime technique, but it is just a monologue, and it suffers from that pretty greatly. I do love these lines, but I know you can't hear it well, and that's just because I'm not an audio engineer. This deafening silence.
I like the demons in the background, because demons, you know.
This was definitely me falling into that trope of because demons. Now, granted, the next song has demons in it, so I tried to show like when was it that the demons are influencing rather than just doing random stuff. This is like that's what demons do. You start walking one path, and then it helps pull you away to your own flesh. And I do love that little reveal. Seeing my reflection and not recognizing my own face, and you're just looking at Satan, because that's dark.
Got him. And then you got the classic white scarf. But hey, guess what? The white scarf being on his neck. Instead, we have something else for him.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of dead time here, and that's probably my problem. But it's trying to show that I gave up what I had being with God and instead took the chains.
Mm-hmm.
So it's heavily relying on props, and then the kind of the demeanor changes here. So rather than having a monologue, it's all happening to me. You kind of miss it there, but it gets angle, so it's like numb to your touch, whereas if you go to touch me, like it kind of pulsates and moves away, just like magnetic. All right, and then it goes into normal. So we're going to cut it there. You'll hear between the two songs, there's like this little pulsing thing, and I do like this heartbeat, so it's showing like the life coming back into me or being in me. And so instead of the normal riff that happens when this person is about to get saved or delivered from God, you have instead like that little pulsating come back there. It's a little touch that's trying to connect the two songs, but that's the only difference.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the song. Purpose and message.
It's a great song.
It's so good. It's just
I loved it.
All the things that I complain about other people doing, I'm like, man, that was a bad song in hindsight.
No, and you know what? We'll get into it later. Purpose and message. Yeah, let's start there. So I feel like, am I wrong in saying that you felt like it was the "Breathe Into Me" intro song? That's kind of what you were aiming for, because you saw "Breathe Into Me," you liked that song, and then you saw it. This needs establishment of something that it doesn't have.
Basically, it has a very quick, scene where they fall into sin. For me, it was less that "Breathe Into Me" needed it, and more that this song I wanted to choreograph, and it needed the second half. The first song didn't need it. This song needs the second part. And so just like cancer attached itself to another song. Or Parasite. Sorry, but Parasite.
Parasite. Yeah. Either way, though, I feel like this is a really interesting, like, it's another sort of like what we were talking about last week.
This is my style. And
this is the style.
You're going chronologically. This is my emo phase of choreography.
Mm-hmm. No, and like what I think this song does very interestingly for its message is it gives like a very, we'll say, a long approach to the debate between like morality and sanctification, you could say.
Yeah.
But it also, I feel like, is a little ambiguous of the state of the person's soul. Are they saved or not?
It theologically is all over the place. Was the guy saved or not? And it was, again, supposed to be that he like grew up in the faith, like, very personal song, grew up in the faith, but wasn't sure where they're at with like who God is. And so it's like they had it, but then they gave it up for whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's some pieces there that are not quite fully clear, and of course they do get a couple points off for me. But like the issues that I see when it comes to the message are, what would you do with this song?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where I'd put this other than probably closer to the end, because "Breathe Into Me" is what it naturally goes into, which is a song that you'd put closer to the end with redemption and deliverance.
Yeah, this is like it's like ethereally floating somewhere. It doesn't know where to land. It doesn't have a clear impact purpose to that thing. Like, it has a message, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's very well defined. It was all feely, emotionally based, and I was like, we should do this song, and then because I was the director, we could do it. And
you just do it.
I abused my power.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, because I'm trying genuinely really hard.
I think it has style, which was where you know, and decent thing, but like just because demons, but
right, because demons. No, but like thinking about this song, if you were to do this one by itself, I was trying to think like, would you be able to do this one by itself, and where would it go? I honestly feel like
it would be like at the beginning.
At the beginning,
yeah, because it's just all about sin.
It's all about sin.
It should leave
classic
with that
opener for topical.
Well, and it makes sense because that's the album Depravity, talking about the idea of where humans are left on their own. So I might theologically adjust things if I wanted to do it. I wouldn't do this song. Let me be very clear. This is not what I'm bringing back unless I could clear up the audio to make it super dang clear and make it less monologue-y. Like it was not going to come back.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, we've devolved. That was the purpose of the message.
Yeah.
Things that are actually good in this song. I like my technique.
There's a lot of good technique. There's a lot of good like style and visuals and comparisons. Like the contrast between
I took
Satan
the lyrics
and God,
and I used a couple cool moments, right, where he's like on the wall or turned his back. Like it has moments, but there's so much dead space in between that it's like the style gets lost.
Yeah, it's like I feel bad. Like every time we try to talk about something positive, it's like, but there's also this.
Yeah, no, it's a bad song. I never did bringing this back.
And so like
part of my history.
Yeah, you do things, you learn from them, you grow, and you do better. That's what we're trying to do.
That's exactly why we're here.
We've been through Sick of It. That song is not very good. This is
my Sick of It.
This is Sick of It for Samuel. And so like you learn, you get experience, and I feel like, and you know, maybe this is a meta discussion of doing mime songs. It's like when you like, there's nothing that feels better in mime than writing a song and it being presented like at a actual presentation.
Right.
Like that feels really good, like as a choreographer. Because then at that point you're like, I did this thing. This thing exists because I had a say in creating it.
Yeah.
And honestly, like that for me makes it feel really good. I also recognize that that's not the end.
No.
And that shouldn't be how we approach songs, is like, I wrote something, so we present it because I wrote it. Like,
right. That's like the level of, you know, my 2-year-old daughter draws me something that's vaguely has crayon on the paper, and I'm so proud of her because she gave it to me or made it. Like, but that's not what we want when we want the final product of a mime song.
Right, exactly.
Like, I'm proud of this work in the sense that it made me a better choreographer over the long haul.
Yep. I refer back to Jesus Freak.
Oh man.
And like that classic one, that Jesus Freak, billion times worse than this song. And that helped me grow as a person and into choreography in a way that having no experience and just saying, choreography is difficult, I'm just not going to do it. I would rather you create a terrible mime song than to not create a mime song at all.
Yep, pretty much.
Because like that's the conundrum of art.
Yeah.
The fact that it exists is enough.
And discipleship, where you don't get the person who's able to share the gospel perfectly well without the person who fumbles over their words and then gets nervous, and then you work through that, and then they learn how to have better theology as they explain things. But you don't get that unless they actually start talking.
Right. Yep. So I didn't mean to get too meta about, you know, choreography and stuff like that, but I felt like it was appropriate to.
No, and that's where we're at, because we talk about the praiseworthy aspects. They're few and far between, but I do love the picture of like the person walking and then slowly turning, you know, appropriate use of why demons are there, but then just being confronted with Satan's face. Because personally in my life, that's what it felt like the things and actions I was doing in my life. Outwardly, I was a Christian, but inwardly, I felt like I was just looking at something evil inside, and I couldn't describe that in any other way. So it has cool moments. It has the buildup of being chained. But now for critiques, because we've already given most of them. No. It's a monologue. It's bad side of song. Like there's no second act blues because there is no acts.
Yeah, I was gonna say actually, like it feels like
it has a moment where it's just the person monologuing and then it shifts. But I wouldn't call that a second act.
It goes from like act 1 to act 3.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because it's got
it's like relatively short too.
Yeah, it is pretty short. So like looking at the act kind of structure, it does have like a build up. I feel like the natural progression of things, it gets the build up and then it kind of reaches a climax and immediately goes into act 3. I feel like there is no act 2 blues because there is no act 2.
Well, and partly because the ending, it's similar to the last one actually, where it's meant to leave you with the message to figure out on your own, where you're like, oh dang. Like like if you were to just use the song on its own, that's what it should feel like.
Yeah.
And partly because it was attached to another song. It didn't need it was the first act as a whole, just a long one.
Right. Yeah.
So critiques, just don't do it. Just don't.
No, like
there's cool. You should take the technique elements that were good in the song and just use them in a completely other song. Like, it doesn't matter what song it is. Like, take the thing where he's banging on the wall and God's on the other side of the wall. Use that in a different song. The part where you're walking and you run into Satan, like, use that in a different song. But the song is not worth redeeming.
Yeah, I feel like the way that I would redeem this song is by lopping off entire huge chunks of filler.
The lyrics. Oh, and you could actually chop off the lyrics.
And
too,
even I would probably take this song and take all of those parts, because those technical parts and those like visuals there are great.
Yeah.
But what you would be left with is like a 30 seconds to a minute song.
So what we should do is, after we're done with Project Understory, we do Project Theological Story. And it's just all the elements of theology, and this will be the first one of Depravity.
Yeah.
Maybe after creation or whatever. Yeah. But we do it in a more systematic theology way, and we get one song that's dedicated to depravity. So amazing, right? Just gotta love talking about that. And then we'll do the song on election after that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Or should it be before?
Well, let's see. We
should the song of election be first before creation?
Well, this is how we would have to do it.
He's not getting the joke.
It'll be after creation. Okay. I'm trying to create another joke.
Okay.
And that is, you start with total depravity, and then you go into undeserved grace, and then into limited atonement.
I'm following you. We'll call the Project Tulip.
Okay,
no, election would happen before creation. We got to be real on this one.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah. But we're not necessarily Calvinists. We're just being dumb. Theologically, the song's about depravity, and it's pretty depraved itself. So there's not.
It's the perfect song for that. No,
it was intentional. I knew there was going to be demons, but they had to do the specific things that demons supposed to do theologically. So I am proud of that in the song. That it's not just because demons.
Yeah.
That I was the problem.
No, I like to go back to what I was saying though. I feel like the thing that I critique it most, that I take away the most points on, is it's a lot of filler.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it's not even that bad of a song in my opinion. I probably like it more than you do, to be perfectly honest.
No, I do love it, but it's more the like you love that ugly thing in your room.
It's got the piece of you that you put into it. And that's
exactly.
Art, like you put yourself into your art, and that's usually the most honest and beautiful types of art, is when you can see somebody's like experience in it.
Yeah. No, and thinking back, I didn't struggle with drugs and alcohol, but I had another addiction, and so it felt like that was part of the storyline why I chose that song as the culmination of it.
Yep, you gotta make it more appropriate for other audiences.
No, exactly. Yeah, tricky one, but all to be said. Clarity 1, difficulty style.
So clarity,
I might give it a 2 because there are moments where you're like, that guy is sad.
Well. So okay. I would like you to tell me what the storyline is. Like, just in one sentence, what would you say the message of this song is?
A person's prayer of feeling lost after having a time with God. After a person's prayer being lost. Specifically, that person was at one point with God and then fell away.
Because like that is actually pretty clear. I feel like that type of message at that succinct level is more or less what I got. And that's what I figured you would say, something along those lines, because that's why I would give like clarity maybe like a 5, honestly.
Oh, interesting. So you're just going to give it lower on style?
We'll
talk about it later. So interesting. Clarity. No, if I'm being brutally honest, I'd probably not say it's a 1. I'd probably give it like a 3. I wouldn't go higher than that, because I think, having listened to people's responses after watching it, most of them were like, huh? Like, I think they got the gist of it, but there was a lot of confusing thing, and the lyrics actually detract from it. The fact that you can't understand what the lyrics are saying. Link down below. I'll link the actual lyrics so you can read them. Nice, emo poetry reading session. I think it's really cool and profound from this person's perspective, but nevertheless.
I think like I've tried to say multiple times, I feel like if you take out the filler, like the message is pretty clear. Like the exact signing and stuff like that doesn't need to be in there. But if you were to just take the things that you do know about it, the things that you do see, I would say, like it's about average on clarity. I wouldn't actually call it that terrible.
That's fair. And then difficulty, it has lyrics that actually make some of those cues pretty easy to hit. The difficulty is actually just filling the filler, you know, like when there's long gaps. So again, our edit will fix that problem, but it's relatively simple. You just have to have a few basic mime techniques. So 3 again. It's
I don't
not
know.
that difficult.
I'm probably going to go 4, but like the difficulty I feel like comes from a lot of that technique that you did put in there, because there's some very specific like movement and some slow motion,
Timing and all that.
Yeah, and the timing.
Calvin
with
was
the
early with
box
that
and
white
things like that.
scarf. So
Yeah. So once again, filler aside, because that does detract from like everything in the song.
Yeah.
The technical aspects of it and the technique required to do this song does bump it up a little bit. Give it a 4.
Solid. And then style. It was stylish.
It tried.
It tried. It had a unique picture or two, which means I'm going to give it 3s across the board.
Well, so for style, like I feel like the thing that it does really well is it gives, you know, this interesting image. Now, does it break any bounds? I feel like it
musically it breaks
struggles.
some bounds.
Yeah,
but
maybe
like,
musically, but we're not talking about the music.
No. But like the choice of music and like how it will be varied from other things that in a lineup, right?
Oh,
This is pretty unique to a standard presentation lineup where everything else is some old song from the 90s or something.
Yeah.
But this one helps break the bounds where it is more monologue-y. It just doesn't do the monologue in a way that I think hits the mark. So that's why I'm going to go 3.
Yeah. Now with style, I don't know. I'll give it a 3.
Yeah, that's pretty right.
So yeah, the reason I give that the least out of all of them is because where like we look at does it break bounds, and that's, you know, our little easy litmus test. And
Yeah.
we kind of examine this from like a theological perspective, and this is a person dealing with sin and how they, you know, are trying to come to, you know, a better knowledge of who they are in relationship to God, whatever you want to
in
point it
hindsight,
as.
I would actually probably just show some specific scenes that highlight that. Maybe a person growing up in the church and some, like, you have room for backstory here because there's a lot of monologues. So when it says there was a time, you know, white seasons and all that, instead of doing a white scarf, because that's very signed to song, actually showing the story of him being there and then choosing to walk away, something like that.
Yeah, and so those aspects, that
abstract,
the abstraction of it, where we should have more concrete type of things, that's where I kind of put it away from.
It was all floaty in my head. It was all up here.
Yeah,
just didn't land.
I don't know. To be perfectly honest, I didn't dislike this song. I kind of like. I would definitely wouldn't do this song as it stands
I would
right
do
now.
this as a poetry reading where I read the poem. That would be about where I do this song.
I feel like this song could be redeemed though, and the reason I say that is
with
like
a lot of musical editing.
You take. I don't even feel like that. I just feel like you need to do away with the filler and figure something out for those times in between. Like that, I feel like is the only issue with this song that I would give for most everything.
That's fair.
So I feel like this song, if you were to bring it back, it takes filling in those gaps with something that pertains to the message of the song.
No, and to be
totally
fair,
doable.
We don't have a lot of songs that just hit on depravity, which could be, I think, a really interesting touch. I'm not saying this is it, but there isn't a hole to fill that could be really interesting on that regard.
And you know what? That's something that I don't think I've said. This song doesn't feel like it's about depravity. You know, this song feels like it's about falling away, maybe. Which,
maybe.
While depravity does have to do with that, it's not depravity properly.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we're talking about depravity, like this isn't a song that I would.
No, that's fair.
Because
that's not. I would say its purpose. That's fair. So instead, focusing more on the idea of a person falling away, which also feels pretty unique. Like we have "In the Light," if you want to be, you know, real strict. The falling away is like real fast at the beginning, but could be something that fills the slot.
Could be something.
Anyway, you can tell us down below how right Charleton is and how wrong I am, or whatever. I don't know. Right?
Nobody's gonna say that.
Yeah, nobody's gonna say that. That's why it felt very safe to say that.
Let's go, Deprived gang. Comment in the comments.
We have a lot of random gangs showing up in the comments section. There's gonna be some gang wars between the Depraved people. What was last week's?
I don't even
know. Anything you wanna tell them to do? Do the thing. I'm Samuel.
And I'm Charleton.
Breaking the line.
I'm clinging loosely to prayers that lately I feel as if I've fallen upon deaf ears. Where are you? Where are you as my faith wavers? Where are you its blinding haze.